I'm back again with another video about Criss Watts, a little bit later than everybody else. So basically, my response about the Criss interview. Uh, of course, listen all the 6 hours that were released. I reply on YouTube, so I've been watching and listening careful, and then listening again and listening and listening. When I say watching, I mean listening, because we don't see Criss Watts, his facial expression, just his voice, detective. So it's quite interesting. It's really long and it's quite interesting. And it's not what I was expecting. So the so the day when they were released from the people who were so probably had access and were thorough and was released on the day on YouTube. So I was watching there, and actually, while I was listening what they were saying, what question, how Chris's sounds, what's his demeanor, how is he feeling. I was actually angry, as most of us in the comments, in the live chats, and most of us, we were kind of like, oh, is this what's going on, like with Criss? Like we are like imagining, he's like kind of suffering a little bit, not that people to suffer, right? But like we were just thinking he's remote. He's like thinking he will talk more about Shannon and the kids, and no, that was actually that was not what he was talking at all. I think there were moments in the interview like it starts very light, right? But then there was moments when and he seems like a very nice guy, very chatty, very happy to be there, to see the detectives again, to be able to uh, say his story, etc., etc., etc. So he was kind of like cheerful, which was like surprising to me. The way he looked at, like, on the days of the when it happened and in the court, he looked at extremely angry. So I don't know if the first, let's say, weeks in the prison, while he's reading only book they gave him, the Bible, that changed him, or it's just another show for us. He put another show for us. I don't know. My opinion is he definitely cannot say, he cannot be honest to save his life, basically. That's just my opinion. Maybe he throws here and there some truths when it's not something important, but when it comes to the important details about, the murders, his family, what happened, that's basically there he's like backing up, like in his shell, and just he doesn't talk. Or yeah, so it will be probably a long video. Maybe if I make it like a part, if I go over, like, I don't know how many minutes, so I will make it part one, part two, because there's a lot. So I had some notes, but probably I will go from my memory because I watched it, I listened it so many times. So first thing, the detectives, the same old detectives, FBI, CBI, Frederick Police Department, Colorado, Tammy Graham, I think it's Connor. So two men detectives and Tammy. So they bring Chris in the museum, but then he's very, that's what they say, like, very excited, and the first thing they say to him, Chris, do you remember us? Which I find very funny from the detectives. Like, do you remember us? I mean, who would forget them? Like, they're just unforgettable. And then he's doing like typical Chris, like, yeah, of course, I remember you. Like, right? Like, he has like a second. Remembers him. He thinks about them, like in a nightmare. So then the friendly him. They have to be very friendly. I know a lot of people in the live chat, also me, I was confused, like, why they're so friendly, like, Chris, let's be friends, like, it's go by gone, like, we forgive you, everything is cool, let's just be friends and hang out. I mean, like, everybody was like, why? But there is a reason why. They're experienced detectives, and as you understand, they have to be extremely nice to him so that he can share, he will be comfortable to share more details. And basically, I think, I don't know what's the end goal of this interview, but it's to understand his thinking, what happened, what was the motive, or what was leading to the day of the murders. So what basically happened? Yeah, so they greet him and they start chit chatting. Like they asking Criss how is he, how is the life in a prison, and a misfortune on our breaking hearts and emotions over here. I'm just being silly, no, but serious. He basically is content. He is saying like it's not that bad. It's better than Colorado. When he was in Colorado for, I don't know, the first, I don't know, I'm not sure there how many weeks there. So all the everybody in jail knew who he was. Basically, everybody was hating him, telling him how the ways he can kill himself. Basically, that's what Criss is talking in the first minutes of this yeah, conversation. And then now in this prison, that he's very kind of, he's okay, he's in peace, he's like in peace with God. He's reading the Bible. He has kind of like nobody's like basically bothering him, doesn't feel threats or things like that. And he gets his exercise like together with the guard for half an hour, I think he said, I'm not sure. So yeah, so even he's exercising, so he doesn't complain much. So he wishes that at least if they transfer him, I don't think he said, he says I don't know where they're going to transfer him, but yeah, he will be like in a top security type of prison. So yeah, so basically that's how it starts. So they're chit chatting. Oh, how are you? How's the food? I don't know, something like that. Not very important. And then, okay, so then they're starting in the more important questions. Um, I think Graham is like, okay, now Criss, we are going to start in more like difficult. Maybe it's difficult for you. And Criss is like, yeah, it's difficult to talk. You know, I want to say what happened. I want to help as much as I can. So Criss is being very helpful, you guys. He's like, he's helpful Criss. And also, as people refer to him, he's now Bible Criss. So we should all like um, believe every word he says. I still think he is still being Criss. And what Criss Watts does is basically lies, or doesn't tell the whole truth, or hide stuff, or twists the reality, or he is kind of delusional. That's my, I'm not psychologist or anything, and even the detectives were not there for that reason, to diagnose him, just to understand what actually was it premeditated, was it snapping. So basically, if it's like a little bit, my camera turned, I will have to fix that. It's kind of like on an angle, maybe on an angle. But anyways, so yeah, what I was saying. So about the premeditation, or was it snapping? So basically, Criss does, by chatting with the detective, saying that it was premeditated. Oh, there you go, English. Premeditated. So basically, it was snapping. Um, Premeditated. Yes, sorry guys for my English. So um, yeah, so Graham said, okay, let's go back to that night, because they have to go back. They have to go back and step by step. Basically, Criss, can you tell us step by step what happened? What happened that night? And so so he said that Shanann, as we all seen, come around, is it 2 in the morning, something there, and he says that she didn't sleep, but that they talked it. And this is the part that like we were all like, ugh, why did you have to say that? Like, it's still kind of like not okay with nobody. But yeah, we have to just listen. This is, I don't think so. Personally. So basically, says that I wanted to, that they needed to talk, they had to talk, and that's, at first he was like not saying anything about, of course, about that he wants out of the marriage, he wants divorce, because it's Criss. Criss cannot say what he's thinking, like he never cannot say what he's thinking. So Shanann was talking. I'm guessing this is what happened. If this is what happened, so she was asking him question, and then he says think they said they were in bed, and I think this is the part that everybody was stunned or kind of angry, that Shannon initiated sexual intercourse. So she was starting to. So here there's like a, yes, the detectives have to be friendly. So the main detective, I think it's Graham. I don't know who it is. So he's like, Chris, how that happened? And he says, well, we were in bed, and she started rubbing my thighs or my shoulder or stomach. And so yeah, so that was, you go, Chris. Yeah, that was a, let's go, Chris. And he's like laughing. So Chris is laughing like, ha, yeah, that was a sign for me to, okay, let's go. And I didn't mind, so I wanted. So basically, yeah. Again, this like I don't know his goal, why he wants to see that. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad. Also, yeah. So basically, he said they had sex, kind of. So they make up. Um, Yeah, but then after some time, I think that Shannon goes to falls asleep. It's still not clear because he's like so not detailed or so not clear. He's very blurry on the parts where he wants to be blurry, where actually the crime happened. For the all the rest of the conversation, when it's like a normal question, what did you do, like like on work, or what did you talk with this colleague or with this friend, or the where did you call, that's like all normal. And what about your parents and this that. But when they talk for the actual night, like for the events of that night, or how did it develop, he's like very blurry. He's like, I don't remember. The only thing I remember Chris saying from this interview is like I don't know what happened to me, like I was like, it was not me. He's trying to say all the time, it was not me. It was like some kind of force took over me. I was not planning, not in a million years that I could have think that I would do such a thing. So I never planned this. And so the detectives are asking, and then what happened? And so then he's saying, yeah, but then after they make up, I don't know what kind of time frame here. He's explaining the situation. So um, so then they started arguing again, but he doesn't say argue, he said talk. They started talking again. They started talking again, but then this time Shannon was like more pushing him, and he says, I think Shannon knew about the affair, and in the beginning I was denying. So they're like, so now Graham is asking me, where are you at that moment, where, like, and he's saying, we are in the bed. So I slide in the bed, so we are like again talking. And then Shannon is like pushing him. No, I think you have an affair. What is going on? What you want from this marriage, this and that. So then he says, that's the moment that he's explaining that he snapped it, basically. So this is how he explains it. So something he snapped it. He said, he admitted he had affair. She said, I knew it. And then he said, yeah, I want divorce, this and that. And I don't know what they discussed, if they even discussed anything, right? And so, and also he said before, they were asking him question, did Shannon take off her makeup or this and that? And he said no, that she just went straight to the bed just in her t-shirt and her underwear. And so this is the moment like where he's saying that he snapped it, as he's saying, and something come over him. And this is the moment when he snapped, when Shannon is saying, okay, fine, you like, first she says, I don't want a divorce. That's what Shannon said. But then Chris, he's like just pushing and push. He's just basically saying, I want divorce. And then Shannon says, okay, well, if you want divorce, then you're never going to see your children. That's what he says. Take it as you want. Is it true? Not true? I don't know. Did she said? Who knows? If she said that that's normal reaction when somebody has a mistress, wants to divorce you while you're pregnant. I mean, that's kind of normal thing to say in anger, right? And so that's the moment when Chris snaps. He basically, so then the detectives are asking me, so what did you do? Do you even, and then he's kind of closed out. He's not so chatty. Before it was like chatty. Oh, what you're reading what kind of books you're reading? I'm reading this book, a crime book, or I'm doing this and that, and I'm talking with this on the phone, and I know what's going on with the social media, and I know everything what they talk about me, and I'm not this monster they're describing. I'm just not. I want them to remember me. This is what Chris says. I want them to remember me as a nice guy, because up to that point, because I was a nice guy. I was a nice guy. Everybody knew me as a nice guy. In the school, I was all with the sports and with all my friends. I was the guy who was helpful. I was helping everybody. I was just like that nice guy up to that point. And I just don't want, like, yeah. And I talked it with God, and I was reading the Bible, and so I think I'm hoping God will forgive me. But the most difficult part is to forgive myself. I think it will happen. That basically I'm basically now I'm imitating Chris. This is how he talks about the situation. So he says, "I'm hoping God will forgive me, and the but more difficult thing, little bit more difficult. He doesn't say like extremely difficult, or it's eating midnight, I cannot sleep. They actually ask him, do you sleep good? Yes, I sleep good at night. So he says, well, I'm hoping I will forgive myself. I think it will happen, just maybe a little time. So yeah, that's basically Criss Watts. Amazing. And the detectives cannot react anything. They're just basically listening what they want, more and more information. So then he's saying he's on top of Shanann at this point on the bed. So she's under the covers or the sheets. I don't even know. He's on top of her. Oh yeah, I forget to say, sorry, I have to back up, that while they're talking, like around 20 minutes, he said, he's sitting on a top of Shanann, on the top of her, let's say on her middle, on her lower waist. And have in mind, guys, that she's a pregnant woman. She's a pregnant woman. How much weeks was it? 6 weeks or hold up. Oh, sorry, I'm going to make some mistake, but I think like more than 3 months pregnant woman, right? 4 months somewhere. So she, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry, guys. Um, so he's sitting on a pregnant woman while they're talking, you know, and um, and all of a sudden she says, "You will not see your kids again." And then Chris snaps, and then he says something good. Over, just grabbed Shanann on the neck and started strangling her, basically. But when he talks these things, you can see in the interview, when he's talking other things, his voice is louder. When he's talking about this kind of events, or later for the children, he's like quiet, like in there, like barely can hear him. Like, what, Chris? Oh, well, I was just, yeah, I was just strangling her. And they're like, well, how many minutes it took, and what was she? And then they ask him this kind of sad question about, rest in peace, Shannon, like, what she was doing in the moment. Did she say something? Did she fight it? And he's just said, no, she did not fight it. And they're asking why she didn't fight it, like Chris. Why do you think she didn't fight it? And Chris says, I don't know why she didn't fight it. Maybe she just let go. Maybe she just, I don't know. And then they say, is it the running mascara comes on because they find the mascara and the makeup all over the sheets and on Shanann and stuff. Was she crying? And Chris says, like, I don't know, I was not looking. I cannot remember. Something was over me. I just could not stop. And so they're asking him, like, again, okay, well, try to be in the moment, try to remember. And he's like, they're like, did she say something? How was her eyes? Or like, what you think she was thinking? And then Criss Watts, the Bible, Criss Watts says, I think she was praying. Yeah, I think a little bit. Her mascara started running, and I mean, it's so sad, guys. And and when you listen to him, it's really like, it's even worse than we thought about him. Like, I don't think he make ends or make anybody, her family or anybody, more happy than, I mean, we just get more angry at this point for Criss Watts. I mean, it's just special case. Criss Watts is a special case. So basically, he's like, I think she was praying, and they're like, oh, it's very funny when I think it's Detective Graham, when Criss Watts says something outrageous, like, right, when he's talking about killing his wife, and basically he's talking nonchalant, like he's talking about what he did for breakfast, for example, but like no emotions. You can still feel like he has no emotion, right, guys? And so then Graham is like very funny. He's like, really? Like he goes like, I mean, not funny, but that's funny in the interview, when Chris says something outrageous or something that really doesn't make sense, and it's like for normal people, like, right? We are not in his mind, but like for normal people. But And something, and then Graham is really, Chris, like really, and then Chris is like, yeah. And so he says, I think Shannon was praying. And then he said, well, I read it somewhere in the Bible. This verse in the Bible says, God, please forgive them for those who, because they don't, on those who, because they don't know what they have done. So he thinks that Shannon was praying basically. But yeah, guys, let me make sure that pretty sure did not happen. Like, let's be real, pretty sure Shannon was not praying. Bless her soul. So, okay, so there's a lot of details probably I'm missing in this part. Maybe I make it like part one, because I'm like still processing what everything was said, because there's a lot of details around that situation, like the conversation with Shannon, and where were the children, and before that, and the motive, and this and that. But I mean, like, this is all from top of my head what I remember from the interview. And yeah, some of the points. So yeah, he did said they had sexual intercourse, made up, and again went in the discussion of, I don't know, fight. Then she said, you will not see the children again. And he went in this rage he's explaining, or something, some kind of power took over him, and he could not stop strangling her. So he kills Shannon. Then he takes the shits and covers her. And this is the craziest part. So the part that we didn't expect it. So then they say, okay, Chris, can we talk about the children? Because we have to talk about the children. What happened with the children? And okay, before I go for the children, in all this explanation and all this his story and this and that, he never says why he hated Shannon so much, like, or why. Like, he never says that. Like, he never says, I hated her so much. He never explains that. He just says, like, oh well, if I didn't meet, because before that they talk about his mistress, like NK. Well, if I didn't if I didn't meet NK, maybe this would not happen. Or if I met her on work and it just stayed at like a work relationship and nothing more, this would not happen. Maybe if I didn't went that. Maybe if me like maybe this maybe if my parents liked Shannon more, and there was no not always conflict, and I was always in the middle between my mother and Shannon, and maybe this would have not happened. um yeah, so I also forget that they first started asking him about the childhood, and you know, was your mother a loving mother? How was your childhood? Is there something out of ordinary? Did you felt love and things like that? And he's explaining like, yeah, it was just normal. But what's normal for Criss Watts, right? We don't know that. The only thing that struck for me, it was like the conversation. Um, it was a conversation about like that he was close to his father, that his sister was like his biggest sister was like outgoing, and she was always like get the child who is getting in trouble, and basically the attention more to his sister, and he was more the introvert and quiet one, and he didn't do anything trouble, he never did anything, not even, he never rebelled, he didn't had any problems like a child or anything like that. But the thing that strikes me is like when they're asking like, oh, did your mother was like a loving, caring mother, and Chris like, yeah, I think so, like, but did you like how did she express the, oh, we don't in my family we just don't, I don't know, he's laughing about it, he's like, I don't know, like, I never seen my dad cry. Is that what you asking me? That's why I don't show my emotions. So then then I was hearing about the social media, because he talks on the phone, right? And people are with a lot of people, I think, and letters, or I don't even know what else. So people are telling him how all the world view Criss Watts, right? But then he's saying, well, my father never showed emotion, not even my mother. So I'm just like my father. I'm just like my father. So I never cry. I try to hold it in. I always try to hold it in. Like, I never show emotions, but that doesn't mean I don't have emotions. Okay, Chris. Do we have to believe that? That's weird, Chris. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's very weird. Like, so basically, he was taught by his family. So his family cold as a cucumber in the fridge. Sorry, guys, but I mean, sorry for that image. But his father never cried. Nobody cried. He could not show emotions. So he says like, "Oh, I'm. That's why people think I'm a monster, but I'm not this monster. I'm just keeping it inside. I never talked it with nobody, even with my best friend. But maybe if I talked it with my best friends, maybe this affair would not happen, and maybe I would not do what I did. And how can a father does such a thing to his own children? And he's always like talking about his children, like distancing himself. Like, and I cannot even believe I was like a father some time ago. This is what he says in the prison. So he's basically still dissociated from. I don't think he still protests, or maybe he will never protest what he did. And who were his children? And like he's saying, I have emotion, I just don't show them. No, Chris, you probably don't have emotions. Like somebody who has emotion would not proceed to do what you did, because you had time to snap, because you said I snapped, but then you had time, the 45-minute drive, as we all know, from the loading in the truck. I think I will put this in the because it's already too long. um I will make part two. So when they start talking about the children, right? Because it's so much details, you guys. I cannot even. I don't even have notes, but it's from top of my head. From top of my head, what I can remember from all the interviews, right? The only vibe I got, that I think he is self-absorbed, still thinking about himself, still lying probably, because everybody say, "Oh, why would he lie now?" This and that. I don't know. I think it's just his. I think it's Criss Watts. I think we cannot believe anything basically what he's saying. Oh, the sun come out. Okay, so I'm doing this early in the morning, so I may look tired. So I'm sorry, guys. So um, he sounds still detached, uh, still kind of like out of reality what happened. But the sad part for us is that he's very content in prison, and he will go on and he will like he will try to save, like I think in his mind, save whatever it's left from his, that it's nothing left from his reputation. But he thinks that he will be able to save, and everybody will think, well, Chris, well, I don't want, because he's saying, I don't want people to remember me just for that one mistake. This is his words. He's saying that one mistake, killing his whole family. He's saying, I don't want people to remember me for just that one mistake, because I was Criss Watts. I was the nice guy. I was the guy who was helping everybody. Just before I killed my family, I was just helping everybody. So I want to be like that in prison. So he's like very Bible Chris at this point. I don't know. I think that's what he's like, helping him, helping nobody else, just helping him. So yeah, I will end up here, guys. It's too much emotion with this case. Let me just tell you, we were all angry. I'm pretty sure the detectives were pissed. Bless her soul, Tammy, she was hanging on there by dreads when he's explaining the intercourse with Shana, and pretty sure did not happen. That we are kind of, that's our speculation, that didn't happen, his imagination, right? But yeah, so I will stop here, because there is also, in the second part, I want to talk about what happened with his children, and about his mistress, how he described his mistress, what his mistress NK, and what is still his feelings, or what his feelings, or still his feelings about that situation. Okay, guys, that's me for now. I see you tomorrow. I think I will do the part two. Everybody be safe. Peace. Bye.